This show is sponsored by Realtor Cynthia Baer, Putting Down Roots. Visit your in-town real estate specialist in Atlanta at cynthiabaer.com.
You are now tuned in to the Good Gracious Show. Welcome.
Howdy, good gracious family. Welcome to podcast episode 110. And it is July 20th. And it is a hot time in the summertime here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm your host, Boyd Baker. Thanks for joining for this episode where I talk to some really amazing Southern talent. I sat down with Joshua Fletcher, a musician, songwriter, and creator, talking about his music and how he goes about making his way in the artistic world. And he's doing a show August 9th at Eddie's Attic. So if you have a listen, you go, I want to learn more, go check him out. As well as I had a conversation with the founders of Unproducible Plays, which is kind of funny that they're producing plays called Unproducible Plays. But this is a really interesting crew of folks who are trying to find out why certain voices have more difficulty making it into plays and getting on the stage, whether behind the camera, in front of the camera, as songwriters, as directors, as technicians. And they're focusing on the Asian community and what that group has to offer and how they really can produce plays and really represent new American voices. And they've got an interesting mini festival going on they call East by Southeast, and it's August 5th through the 19th. And fortunately, Horizon Theater in Little Five Points and Aurora Theater in Lawrenceville are both supporting them and hosting their evenings of performances, or not evenings necessarily, but they're usually short pieces. They can be one acts. It's going to be kind of like a little mini variety show of creativity. So you ought to check them out. That's August 5th through the 19th as well. Otherwise, just plugging along, trying to spread the good word of our fall that's coming upon us. I know we still have a lot of summer left, but when the kids go back to school, that's kind of the end of summer in my brain. So, and that's just a couple weeks away. Anyway, hope you've had a wonderful summer and enjoy.
Well, my name is Vyas, and I'm an actor in Atlanta, and I have been for about 15 years now. And I'm here with my sort of producing partners with Unproducible Plays. We're doing the Year of Asian Voices.
I'm Michelle Pokopac. I'm an actor here in Atlanta in both theater and film, and I'm one of the producers of Unproducible Plays, Year of Asian Voices. I grew up in the Georgia area, but a few years ago I made my base solely in Atlanta.
Great. I'm Pam Joyce, and I'm a theater director, but also an academic. So I just spent a year out at Emory at Oxford teaching theater. And so this was a passion project, producing Unproducible Plays.
So are you still at Oxford?
I'll be part-time at Emory at Oxford and part-time at Kennesaw this next year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Teaching
theater, teaching the intro to theater classes, an acting class. Sometimes it's a literature course.
Mm-hmm. So how did... I mean, obviously, it seems weird that you're saying we're the producers of Unproducible Plays. So how exactly, somebody tell me how this project came together, or the brilliant naming, or whatever might be.
Well, Pam kind of brought Michelle and I together. She was doing just salon-style, sort of in her house readings around the dining table of plays from a thing called the Kilroy List, which features women playwrights that are not really being produced in America. And she brought Michelle in for a play called The Art of Gammon. And then a couple weeks later, she brought me in for a play called Orange. And after just sitting around and talking about it, she's like, I really think you two need to meet.
And so from there, I think we noticed that there's this kind of lack of community or just sort of representation or just group of Asian artists being able to come up and meet together and have their stories be told, their voices be told through plays, musicals, anything like that. And so because we all, of course, come from a theater backgrounds, we came together on creating this sort of community and this group of challenging the Atlanta theater audiences and the Atlanta theater industry and artists as to why these stories are not being told, why they're unproducible. And so we've been challenging those by starting up conversations with members of the community and also putting up and producing events and shows to show that it can be possible.
And that people will come.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, that's it, right? And people say, oh, we can't produce it because nobody will come. But
Right.
you have to put the chicken or the egg. Which one, how's it going to come?
Yeah, yeah. Or the other pushback was the talent. Like, do we have the talent in Atlanta? Do we have a significant number of Asian American actors in Atlanta to put on these plays? Because frequently the larger houses have to feel like they have to bring in talent from the West Coast or New York, which can be costly for them. And so, but if we don't develop the local talent, how are they going to get better?
Right.
So there's that dilemma.
Yeah.
Which,
So do you see this this kind of overarching connectedness, this project being more about the playwrights, the subject of the stories, or the people acting? Because you
Yes.
could be any and all of those,
Yes, and
right?
yes.
You can all do
Yes.
Sound of Music, but with an all Asian, American Asian cast,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, and yes. And one of the things that we found funny, and the idea of the unproducible plays is an oxymoron, right? We are showing that they are producible and that there is talent and there's audience and there's stories and directors. But one of the things that's funny is that both Michelle and I are of Asian descent, of different descent. I'm Indian American descent. Indian American, that's how you'd say that. And Michelle is
Korean
Korean American. And we're both working. I've been a company member with the Atlanta Shakespeare Company for several years and played all the ingenues, and no one's ever said, well, she's, not white or not black, and it's been fine. So what we decided was, well, that's something everyone's comfortable with. Everyone's comfortable with this idea of this non-traditional casting, putting them in classics. It's easy.
Or colorblind casting, where their ethnicity, background, their looks are not considered with the casting.
Exactly. So, but what about the contemporary plays? This is a trend of inclusion, and we realize that there are very good playwrights who are writing contemporary stories for Asian Americans, and even just contemporary stories for non-Asian Americans, but they're still Asian playwrights. Just this year is going to be the first Asian woman playwright produced on Broadway. And her play, unfortunately for us, doesn't feature any Asian actors. It's written for, I think, 5 Caucasians and maybe 1 black actor. But that's a step forward. And so we wanted to show that not only is there playwrights, there's stories, there's actors, there's an audience for that.
I think that we tend to have an easier time trying to, maybe recruit isn't the word, but to find actors and playwrights. So those are the main, I guess, positions that we've been working with, but we want it to be very inclusive with any kind of artistry. So whether you're a director, a designer, a visual artist, a choreographer, any of those positions we are trying to bring in our group together. But I think because 2 of us are actors and 1 of us is a director, we kind of, is an easier way to get into that. So.
Yeah. Well, so how did you start bringing this crew together or to make these connections?
So 2 things started to happen at the same time. I actually started to do the Kilroy list because I wanted to do my part to promote female playwrights, female artists. And so I couldn't do that if I didn't know who the female playwrights were. So the Kilroy list, if you don't know it, it's a group in LA of women. I don't think they're all playwrights, but a lot of them are. And when they got together and the theater community nationally was having this conversation about, I think something like 85% of all the playwrights produced in America are male, and just the challenge of these regional theaters to put women's work up, and there was some pushback. Well, they're not ready. The work isn't up to par. So the Kilroy list challenged them, and so they got a group of people together to read these plays and rank them, and said, okay, of these hundreds of plays, these are the top 30 women. And I think that the list goes on, but the top 30 women that have been vetted, and these plays have not been produced, but they are good quality plays. And so theater companies started to look at those playwrights. So that was my challenge to myself, was to get familiar with these women who weren't getting produced. So of the, I think we read about 6 of them in my house, and 2 of the 6 that I was the most in love with happened to be written by Asian American women.
Huh.
So that was happening at one time, and the artists around the table, some of them were artistic directors said, yeah, you can't really do that in Atlanta. So the conversation started. Why?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
What
that
was
was
their
happening.
answer?
Well, it was twofold. It's we don't have the talent and we can't get the audience in here. And so the first 2 of our 3 events were not really open to the public. It was getting those people from the theater community that could make the change in the room with Asian artists to have some dialogue about that.
Most of them were like board members or producers, artistic directors.
So
et cetera.
to show them the play or scene or something, and then have a discussion.
And the
Exactly.
actors
Yeah.
themselves, they, I think with Orange, they might have known you, but several people did not know the actors that were there. And I mean, Ami's been working for how
years.
long? Yeah. But so that was happening at one time, and at the same time, while I was at Oxford, here I am looking at my classroom, and half of my students are Asian, and half of that half, so at least a quarter of them are actually Chinese nationals, or a quarter of them are Asian American. And it was really distressing to me that they loved the class, they loved the arts, but none of them, even if they kept coming back, none of them felt like they could do it for a living. And
They don't see themselves in what's being done.
Or at least in Atlanta, like maybe if we want to start a career, you have to do it in LA or New York, but not Atlanta.
Right.
Yeah. They would make reference to the television shows, like Fresh Off the Boat, or things like that.
But the opportunities seem to be a bit more scarce here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what's the ultimate goal? What's the high-reaching, this is what we want to do with Unproducible plays?
I think we kind of are achieving that goal at this point. Well, we have a few. One of them being that we can encourage that change with theaters in the Atlanta area to reconsider, or just to put more consideration when they release a new season of shows, to be a bit more inclusive as far as what the story is, their characters included, and the actors and the talent as far as designers, directors that they bring on for those productions. And I think another goal that we've created now is that we have this platform. We have this community, this entity of Asian artists coming together so that we can all find each other, collaborate, network, and find an identity here in Atlanta.
So do you see Unproducible plays? Let me ask this a different way. Is this a budding theater company, or is it a networking group with a purpose?
I think it's a networking group with a purpose. I know Pam had been involved with her own theater company years back, and I've done it too. And that's just, producing is hard. I mean, it really is. And if you're a working actor or an educator, there's just not enough time to do it properly. But one of the goals that we've had is this small conversations we've been having has now budded into a festival. So I think that was part of the goal, was these artistic directors came to see what we were doing and said, how can we be part of this conversation? We understand that's what we need to do. We need to open up our audience. We need to open up our plays, our seasons. And Horizon Theater offered us space and said, I want to host you. Let's do this. And then subsequently, Aurora Theater in Lawrenceville said, I want to host you. Let's do this. So we've already got that conversation going. And we now have a network as well for artists to come together. So we can actually create this festival and show them there is plays to do. I guess for me, the goal is really, I want you to see these plays and I want you to say, I can take this little skeleton that you've done. You've shown me there's an audience, and now I can put my resources behind it as a theater and produce it.
And it's funny that you ask us that question, because I think we have asked ourselves that question several times, especially in the beginning, which has been we started this about a year ago, because we were unsure if we wanted to be a company or a theater company or, I don't know, a business of some sort. So we were unsure as well, but I think this is where we're heading towards, especially with the festival.
Now, if you're doing a festival, though, now you are officially you're producing something, or you are a theater company on some level. So you at least have that wing sticking out your head here.
Right. I mean, up until this point, we've been very flexible and agile. The two events in the beginning were staged readings, and so I mean, you could say yes, we're producing a reading, but there's no scenery, there's no costumes, but I mean, the acting talent is. I mean, the actors put in a lot of work into a reading, and I love watching them personally.
And working with stage managers, and we had a designer from SCAD, I believe, help us with Orange on digital designs for our sets. So all sorts of artists across the board, really.
So what is this next?
This
level
festival,
mean? Yeah,
right.
What does a festival mean?
Yeah, so...
Or are we still working out the details?
We are still working out the details, but I think in sort of what we agreed to in the beginning was the three of us made a commitment for 1 year, 3 events, and that the first 2 events would be targeted, invited only, people who can make change, and the third event was now now we've got a list of Asian American artists in Atlanta that are working. Now let's give as many of those people an opportunity. Whereas the first 2, we kind of handpicked the actors that we knew were working and had some chops, basically. And so now we're opening up to anyone who has an idea and wants to do something. So it's
like a showcase.
It's a variety of things.
It's almost a happening as opposed to an actual produced event, because we've asked our community, our Asian American actors and producers and directors, all of them to sort of take ownership of what they're doing. And they have. We've had people come in and say, I've got a play, I want to direct it, I've already put together the actors, I'm in charge of this. Give me a date. Let me know when I'm going on.
Yep. Or I'm a dancer, or I'm a musician, and so forth.
And so we kind of have never really taken on fully the producer hat. It's always been a partnership with other people who are giving us the opportunity to bring people together. So it is almost it's almost a little bit more like a happening. We just kind of sent the call out on Facebook and said, hey, who wants to do this?
Right.
And then we got people back. So that's why I say, it's sort of we're producing. We've decided, yes, we're going to guide you with what
But
we
if
know.
you had 10, let's say 10 great plays that came toward you, people say, this is what we want to do, then you guys are going to curate that,
Right.
I'm assuming.
Yes.
And so you have to work through that aspect of being a theater group on some level.
On some
being the bad guy.
absolutely. You can't ever get away from that.
Yeah.
So what do you envision this happening looking like when it goes on at either Horizon or Aurora? Is it 3 1-acts, or is it going to be a mixed bag?
So far,
So, well, actually, there's been some evolution.
Something changed.
there's
You don't
been
know
some
about this.
Yeah, because we're so several people applied. Some people applied with a specific project, and some people applied and just said, I'm an actor, I just want to do something.
I'll do whatever.
And so then it was then we had like 8 East Asian females and of course I'm sitting here thinking, what is the play that has 8?
Yeah.
So here's what it's kind of lining up to be. We've got 2 nights that are a variety. We actually have this young actor. His name is Sky Passmore, and he read this biography about Sesu Hayakawa, who was a silent film star that was kind of the first American male sex symbol, but also the villain. And so he's written a parallel play of his experience as an actor now and kind of being put in these stereotypical roles and kind of what they did to Sesu. So he's written this play, so there's going to be a staged reading of that. Then the larger group of Asian women that we had. So I have a writer friend, and we've done this a couple of times when communities want to put on a performance. And so they will, they're going to write their own stories, and then we'll help them make
Craft
them better.
something.
Yeah,
Make
craft
it,
something,
yeah.
and then I'll stage it. And then we have a group that wants to present a number from the musical Allegiance, which just got off Broadway. It's a play about George Tataki's family story about when
George Takei.
Takei, thank
Oh,
you.
okay.
And Leah
Thank you.
Salonga was
Sorry.
in it. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That putting the Americans putting the Japanese in internment camps during the war. And then Amala is going to, her mom is actually a trained Bengali singer. And so the 2 of them are going to perform and will craft a story about her mom teaching her how to sing in Bengali as a child.
Oh, neat.
So, yeah, so it's a mixture. And then the second night, the play by Natasha Patel there'll be a staged reading of that.
Nice. So this is going to be identical performances at both of those theaters, at Aurora and Horizon, then, at least in
Almost.
concept right now.
In concept, right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
It'll
I know,
depend.
things change. It's
you
a
know,
theater.
Yeah.
Be ready.
Yeah.
People will get work. They'll
Yeah.
be able to join us there. But the idea is to do a similar
Nice.
Yeah.
program
Both
at both
locations.
places.
And what's the timetable, or what are the dates of these things?
August 5th, 6th, and 7th at the Horizon, 2018. And at the Aurora, it'll be August 19th. I think that's the Sunday. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you'll just do everything will be done at the same time, maybe at Aurora rather than in 2.
Well, Aurora has
Okay.
2 stages, so that is
Gotcha.
we're looking at their production schedule to make sure, like, can we do them
Can you fit in
on the same
Yeah.
day at the same time? But then we'd have to split our audience, or should we stagger the times? But the beautiful thing about that space is that you have a really large
options.
stage and a small black
Yeah.
box.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's tremendous. So let's say it's August 20th.
Okay.
Now what?
Oh wow!
Well, I'll be on a beach.
Where you'll think you're on a beach.
Exactly. We've kind of lightly discussed, like, where do we want to take it from there.
Yeah.
I think that we've all come to an agreement that it's a lot what we're doing, because this is not
Because you're doing it on the
something-
side.
Yeah, we're doing it on the side. We're not being paid for it or anything, but this is a very big passion project for all of us. But, we're all very, very busy actors, directors, educators. So I have suggested at one point that we just keep up with the community, because we have a Facebook page and all those sorts of events we keep people updated with. I was thinking that maybe we could change the name, because we've proved that it's not Unproducible anymore, to maybe being something like Asian Artists of Atlanta, to kind of give artists in the area just a place or a community to go to. And then maybe we're just even lighter with our flexible schedule if we collaborate, or if someone comes up with an idea or a piece of work that they want to bring people in with. Then we just work on it together piece by piece as it comes along, instead of doing a specific calendar. So I think that's That's the only pitch that we've had so far.
Right now, you've got that goal of getting through to August 20th.
And I think we've shown that there's this idea, I think, in theater, at least, if you're an actor, yes, you want to keep working, but you just sit around someone's dining room table and you don't have an audience, and it feels just like, we're like a book club. Or you have to have a theater and produce something. And I think what we've shown is you can get together, you can do an event, and there can be an audience, and it doesn't have to require the resources of a full producing house to do it. And it'll still feel good, you'll get good feedback, and you'll further your craft, and you'll open up an audience and maybe make some connections. And that's what I'd like to see more of. I used to live in LA for a little bit, not as an actor, but I did go out into the theater world for a while, and they did that all the time. There are groups always sort of self-producing, and it's in somebody's house, but it's open to the public. And I thought, that's amazing. That's what we need more of. I'm an equity actor, so I often feel that I can only work on equity projects, which means that there's 7 theaters I can work at. But actually, I can do a staged reading in a salon-style person's house, and it's okay. I don't have to get paid for it. And I can still show the community what I'm doing. I can still have a rehearsal process. I can further my craft. And I think that we'd like to show that marginalized groups, so to speak, quote unquote, can do that. You don't, even if you're a young actor or LGBTQ or Asian or anything, disabled, it doesn't matter. You don't need to wait to do this. And we've sort of proven it. We've had the framework. So in addition to being a network, I'd love to be a resource to show any other groups out there that want to do this, that want to put on an unproducible play. We can do it, and we'll show you how.
If people want to learn more or get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, I think our Facebook page would be the best point of contact. So it's just Unproducible Plays, Year of Asian Voices. Be sure to check it out and just like it, and then keep up with all the stuff that's happening on there.
Yeah, and our email is unproducibleplays@gmail.com.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming in today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
Nice.
you.
Well, my name is Joshua Fletcher. I'm a songwriter from Atlanta. Lived in the Atlanta area for most of my life, save the couple years in Nashville and my quick times in New York and Los Angeles.
Yeah. Quick times. I like that.
Very quick. Quick.
Those are like long weekends quick?
No, I was in New York for, sort of. I was
It
in New York
feels like
for a
it now.
summer when I was very young, and then I was in Los Angeles to make a record. It was longer than just a trip, not long enough to say
Yeah.
with
You
the
call it
authority
home.
that I moved there, yeah.
Right.
I did pay rent while I was out there. So.
Yeah. Hey, that counts. That counts for something. So, have you always been a singer-songwriter, or were you kind of like just as a teenager just playing?
Excuse me.
As a teenager, just playing guitar and just trying to figure it out?
So I came to songwriting pretty early. I was a skateboarder growing up. I failed at Little League and youth basketball because I couldn't pay attention long enough to learn what I was supposed to be doing. I just wanted to go out there and be a star. I wanted to be Fred McGriff.
Yeah.
I wanted to be Michael Jordan or whatever. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't focus on it enough. And so I started skateboarding because you didn't really have to focus. You can just kind of roll around until you learn what to do, and no one's out there yelling at you to do something, and you're not letting anybody down when you don't do something right. And so I started doing that when I was probably in the 3rd grade. I got really into it. And through reading Thrasher magazine, I got into
You got
the
sucked
idea.
into the whole
Yeah,
culture.
I wanted to start a band, and I wanted to be this I got really into the idea of being in a punk rock band. And I started listening to MXPX. And my family's pretty conservative. I grew up in a Baptist church, and so I started listening to Christian punk rock. Which we can get into as much or as little as you want to. I've got a lot of opinions. But I wanted to start a band. So I had tried to play guitar when I was younger, when I was in the 3rd grade, and it didn't take. Again, I didn't have a long enough attention span to do what someone else was telling me. I picked it back up in about the 6th grade and just taught myself how to play. I took an afternoon class at church from our music minister who kind of taught us a couple chords, and I went home and I played those over and over again until I thought that I could play a song. And then when I was, I think 15, I wrote my first song, just a little punk rock thing, and from there I was kind of hooked, so I was in a band.
So then you had to find a band?
Well,
or
I
did
built
the
a band. So
me
me and a couple of friends of mine had, air quotes, started a band
Right.
years ago. We just couldn't play.
Right.
We had a
You hung
group.
out together and you
Exactly.
called yourselves a band.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
said, like, eventually one day we'll figure out how to
Right.
play and we'll be a band.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we did. We, my good friend Tyler and I started a band, and we found a friend of ours who we thought could play drums, and we said, hey, you're going to play drums in our band. And he said, okay, fine. So we learned to play drums, and I switched from guitar to bass because Mike Herrera, the singer from MXPX, was a bass player. So I said, I can do that. I can play bass
Yeah.
and sing, and I'll just write all the songs on guitar and teach them to you. And we recruited another friend to kind of play lead guitar. Started a band when I was 15. We were called the Knockout. Did that till I was about 18. But I wrote all the songs, and I was never a very good player. I'm still not a great player. I mean, I've been playing for a long time, so I can figure it out. But
But the songwriting
but
kind
the
of stuff.
songwriting, yeah, I loved songwriting.
So how do you transition from the punk rock band to doing anything else? Or did the band leave you and you had no choice? It's tough to be a solo punk
That's
rocker.
part of it. It's kind of a twofold answer, and I'm going to give you probably the most cliche answer that a songwriter who was very active in the 2000s can tell you, and that's that I discovered Ryan Adams.
Oh.
when I was 16, 17. I saw Ryan Adams play a song on Letterman, and it was kind of like a rock. It was from his rock and roll record, and that was kind of what I was listening to at the time. And so I thought, this guy's kind of what I'm into. I'll go check this out. And so I bought Rock and Roll, which was the record that got me into it, and then I bought Heartbreaker because it had the coolest cover. And Heartbreaker was completely different than Rock and Roll, and I didn't like it at first because it was too country, but I just kept coming back to it, and I ended up sitting with it for a long time. And it was the first time in a long time that I feel like songwriting in and of itself had moved me, and not, guitar solos or sort of the idea of this rock and roll band thing. And I loved that. And so one night at a party, my parents were throwing a party. It was like a work Christmas party or something. It was at my house, and I had just locked myself in my room because I didn't want to be around it. And I was watching a Sheryl Crow behind the music, and had been listening to Ryan Adams. And I said, you know what, I can do this. I can do this. I can write these songs. So I sat down and I wrote what I thought at the time was a country song. It wasn't very good. I mean, it made it onto like a demo album that I released in as much as a 17-year-old can release a demo album. I wrote this song, and it kind of stuck with me. I liked the idea of kind of pouring yourself into a very stripped down sort of song. It didn't rely on anything else other than song. And from that moment on, I wrote songs that I wanted to make sure would stand alone as a song. So I then and now want to write songs that I can sit and play by myself, and they mean just as much as if I were with a band, I put out a record in 2015. That's the latest record that I have out, and it's very produced. There's a lot of layers to it. Me and the producer spent a lot of time like layering instruments on instruments and making this really cool thing. But all of those songs I wrote by myself, and I made sure that if I play them by myself, then they mean the same, or as much, maybe not the same.
So when you think of the craft of songwriting, I mean, are there other artists that you've taken notes from, or do you feel like you're just forging a path that kind of resonates more with you?
Well, for a long time, it was was just sort of a copycat endeavor. I loved Ryan Adams, and so I wanted to be that. And then I loved, this band, the Damnwells, and bands like Augustana, and I loved old country music. I got really into.
So you started going down rabbit holes.
I did, yeah. And so
it's a big family tree, man, to
exactly.
get to modern music.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because I started. I'm sure that a lot of people do this, but I started late. I started at a recent artist, and I went back because I was raised. My dad's really into CCR. My mom's really into the Eagles, but not into anything enough for me to really pick up on it. So I am very familiar with the work of Creedence Clearwater Revival, but it was never presented to me as an art or something to pursue. It was just like, this is music.
Background.
This is the music I like. And so when something finally spoke to me the way that it did, I went backwards into all these rabbit holes. And so I got from Heartbreaker, Ryan Adams, I got into Graham Parsons, and from there, got into Hank Williams and Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson. And so, yeah, when I was very young, I was just trying to be the bands and artists that I liked. So I wanted to put out a Ryan Adams record. I wanted to put out a Wilco record or an old 97s or a Sunvolt record or whatever. And so I tried very, very hard to drill down into this alt country thing.
Yeah.
With some success. I mean, I played a Telecaster and wore a lot of Pearl Snap shirts, and we made the sounds that you're supposed to make. But it just, and I'm proud of the work that we did. It wasn't me. It was me trying to be someone else, which I was, I was a kid. I didn't know any better. And I would say now, after stopping trying to be this thing, I've built something that's a little more of just me. It has elements of all these things. I still love all those songs that I started to love.
You can't help to share what you've learned.
Yeah,
so that's
exactly, and it makes it in there. You can pick up on these
bits
and pieces, and I think that it makes it into something that's, it's like you construct a personality based on bits and pieces of things that you like and agree with and believe in. And I think it's the same with any sort of art, really. I mean, in the beginning, I think you ought to be able to point to what made you get into this thing, and then as you get further down the line, you can still see those things, but everything doesn't point in the same direction, I think. So I got really into like the National and Bon Iver and Grizzly Bear and bands like that, who are a little bit more quote unquote indie rock.
Well, it's evolving, right?
Yeah.
And the sounds come and they go, and it's cyclical on some level. But
and so that all kind of makes it in there.
Yeah.
But at this point, I'm just trying to do what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, did you find that the time you spent in Nashville, was that beneficial, or did it open your eyes in different ways to what the music biz was or is?
Yeah, I think it was beneficial. Sure, it was really nice to be around people who understand what you do. You can find that here in Atlanta, but it's harder. And especially now that I've left and come back, I'm trying to sort of reintroduce myself to this city. But I had a great group of people up there who were very supportive and who are also really good artists in their own right. And most of them are still there, still doing good work. And it was good to get out of town. It was good to go to a place where you're not crazy when you say, like, oh, I'm going to be a songwriter, I'm going to be a musician. And you also get the frustrating parts of that, too. I mean, one of the first nights I was there, I got sort of like set up on this blind date with a guy who was trying to be whatever, a publisher or something. And you have millions of these meetings and none of them ever go anywhere. And we ended up going out to a bar, to this weekly event called Whiskey Jam, which is great for a lot of songwriters of a certain ilk, but not really for me. It was people who were pitching cuts for country artists. And so it was everyone just trying to out light beer and tight jeans themselves. And it wasn't for me. And you see there's a lot of that, and you can find it as easily as you want to. If you go down Lower Broadway, you can see the worst kind of country music or the best kind of country music. It just depends on what you're looking for. And it opened my eyes to the fact that music can be just like any other job. You try and make money. You do what you think will work, and you try and make money. And I realized pretty quickly that I'm probably never going to make much money doing this, but I'm going to do work that I'm proud of.
That's the reason you should do the work.
Yeah,
I mean, in theory, it's
I think so too.
To get the best quality. Especially.
If someone handed me a check for $1 million and said, "Hey, we want you to do this," it'd be tough not to take it. But.
Yeah. Well, now
it's
you're
really
talking, everybody's got a price.
It's really easy to sit here and say I'm not chasing the money because the money has never come looking for me.
Exactly.
But if it did, who knows?
Yeah.
But I'm proud of the work that I'm doing, and I'm proud to be doing it here.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you're in Atlanta doing it. Then. That's good.
Thanks.
Well, if people want to learn more about what you're doing and what's going on, what's the best way for them to find out?
So I have a website. It's joshuafletchermusic.com. My birth name and artist name are Joshua Fletcher. So if you search for Joshua Fletcher on Spotify or Apple Music or any of those things, I'm there. You feel free,
Well, do you have anything upcoming? Any shows that folks could come check you out?
Yeah. So my good friend Tyler Lyle and I will be at Eddie's Attic on August 9th. We
just doing a kind of a combo. Is he backing you up, or you
no,
guys have a
so
hybrid?
It's Tyler's show, and I guess I'm opening the night. But we'll generally, when we play together, we kind of split pretty much down the middle. And we'll probably do a song or two together. But it'll probably just be me with a guitar, him with a guitar,
There you go.
doing our own things. But these shows have sold out in the past, so if you're going to come, get tickets. But it's gonna be really good. I will practice a lot for this one, so
I will be awake.
Sound great. Yeah.
I will plan on being there and attentive.
Exactly. And Tyler's great. I mean, most folks that are familiar with my work are familiar with his, but if you don't know, you should check out his stuff too. And he's an incredibly talented songwriter, also from Atlanta, currently in Brooklyn, but I think coming back here soon. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for coming in today, man. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me. My wife and I had a baby 8 months ago, and this was the first song that I wrote as a direct result of that feeling of kind of bringing a new life into a world that you're not entirely certain about anymore. And for right now, the song is called "This Is Your Blood," and it may not exist in this form forever, so we'll see. Let's go. There's a useful lie I tell myself. It's God is good and love is winning. But I see flags raised that I'd burn myself if I were brave. Met a woman in a bar downtown. We drank too much and dreamed of summer. Threw a party for some friends we knew. I gave away my name. Ooh, it's the same love. We're the same ones. We were the same ones. But I ain't giving up. This is your blood. This is my blood.
What the hell am I supposed to tell her? Most folks are good, but we're all bathed in sin. These days it's a wash. Oh, but I remember Sunday school back in my hometown. Oh, we sang, Jesus loves the little children. Just as long as we can keep them their side of a wall. Oh, it's the same love. We're the same ones. We're the same ones. And I ain't giving up. This is your blood. This is my blood. This is my blood. Oh, it's the same love. We're the same ones. We're the same ones. I ain't giving up. This is your blood. This is my blood. This is my blood. This is my blood. Oh, this is your blood. This is my blood.
Well, that's it for another Good Gracious Show podcast. If you want to check out more, go to goodgraciousshow.com. There you can stream all the past episodes, as well as see some video and pictures and odd little bits and pieces. You can obviously keep up to date by signing up, do an RSS feed if you need it, to get it to come right onto your phone or your listening device. But you'll find us at iTunes and Stitcher, Google Play, all those kind of places. You can also sign up on Facebook, and you'll get kind of a little friendly reminders of when we have things coming up. And Twitter, we're at GG Show Atlanta, and you can sign up for our newsletter even. So you got so many ways you can keep in touch and let me know what you think I should be talking about, who I should be talking to. Because there's a world of amazing music artists and change makers here in the South, and I'm just trying to cover them all and spread the good word. So if you have any suggestions, please do reach out. Otherwise, be a good neighbor, go hug someone, and I'll talk to you next week.